Guys, what's the deal with Unreal Engine 5? If you've played a video game in the last 5 years, you've probably been dazzled by Unreal Engine 5. Hyper realistic lighting, yes. Real time ray trace reflections, absolutely. Giant open worlds, check. Or, the signature stutter that everyone complains about, that one too. UE5 has become the not so secret ingredient behind some of the most visually striking games that we've seen over the last few years. But while many people are still marveling at the graphics or lamenting the look, there's a bigger story unfolding behind the scenes. And here's the thing, UE5 isn't just a tool, it's rapidly becoming the default game engine across the entire industry, from massive AAA studios to small indie developers working out of their bedroom. Let's dive into the rise of Unreal Engine 5 and figure out why everybody's using it. We'll acknowledge some of its drawbacks and ask what widespread adoption means for the industry's future. Okay, before we get too deep, let's cover the basics here. What exactly is a game engine? You can think of it as the invisible machinery that makes a video game work. It handles all of the graphics, the physics, the AI, sound, and all your button mashing, right? It's what makes the worlds you explore and the characters you control feel real, whether you're fighting demons or racing through the Alps. Epic Games has been building this kind of machinery for decades. The original Unreal Engine launched way back in 1998 alongside a game called, you guessed it, Unreal. It was a technical marvel that pushed PC graphics to their absolute limit. And over the years, Epic kept refining its tool, adding console support, improving how things looked, and making Unreal Engine more accessible to different types of developers. But it wasn't really until Unreal Engine 5, unveiled in 2020, that everything really exploded. UE5's adoption rate has been staggering. Almost overnight, it became the go-to choice for basically everyone: AAA studios, indie developers, and even the film industry. Epic's tech demos like The Matrix Awakens showcased photorealistic cityscapes and cinematic action that made people question whether they were watching a game or a movie. Major titles like Hellblade 2, Black Myth Wukong, Lords of the Fallen, and even Halo Campaign Evolved are all built on UE5. Big budget studios and ambitious indie teams alike see it as their ticket to creating next-gen experiences. And what sets UE5 apart isn't just raw power, it's accessibility. Epic has removed many of the barriers that used to separate small developers from AAA quality production. The result is an engine that completely dominates the modern game development landscape. So why is everybody using it? That's a great question. UE5 has captured developers' hearts and minds through a combination of powerful tools, flexibility, and a genuinely developer-friendly ecosystem. At the core are two game-changing features, Nanite and Lumen. Nanite lets developers import film-quality assets directly into the game without worrying about polygon limits. No more painstakingly optimizing every rock and tree. Lumen provides real-time dynamic lighting that makes everything look convincingly real. As one developer put it, UE5 makes small teams look like big studios. It's hard to argue with that. And beyond the visuals, UE5 is incredibly scalable. It runs on everything from next-gen consoles to mobile devices, meaning studios can reach a very broad audience without rebuilding their games from scratch across multiple platforms. And Epic's licensing model is actually pretty generous. The engine is free until your game earns $1 million, which dramatically lowers the financial barrier to entry. Then there's the community. Unreal boasts endless tutorials, active forums, and the Unreal Marketplace where developers can buy or sell assets, plugins, or project templates. Indie teams can grab high-quality character models or environment packs and have a playable demo running in weeks instead of months. Put all this together, and UE5 isn't just a game engine, it's a full creative ecosystem that empowers developers like never before. But what happened to custom engines? Well, here's a bit of gaming history for you. Once upon a time, almost every major studio built its own engine. In the early 2000s, if you wanted a AAA game, you needed proprietary technology. idTech, Frostbite, Blam, Anvil, all these engines powered iconic franchises and were badges of honor. They were proof that the studio had serious technical chops. Fast forward to today, and the story has changed dramatically. Maintaining a custom engine is expensive, time-consuming, and risky. Every update requires specialized engineers, often pulling focus away from actual development. And if you're training new hires, that's hours of knowledge transfer taken away from your team. UE5 offers a tempting alternative to this problem: cutting-edge tools, cross-platform support, and a robust ecosystem, all without massive upfront investment. Major publishers like EA and Square Enix are increasingly experimenting with Unreal, choosing efficiency over proprietary tech. Custom engines haven't disappeared entirely, of course, but they're more niche than ever. They're mostly reserved for experimental projects or specialized applications rather than being the industry standard. That's not all sunshine and rainbows, of course. UE5 isn't perfect. Nothing ever is, right? Those advanced features, they come with a performance overhead, a significant one at that. Nanite and Lumen can seriously strain hardware, particularly on mid-range PCs or older consoles, and developers often have to spend countless hours optimizing instead of polishing, which isn't exactly ideal. Then there's what you might call the plug-and-play temptation. UE5 makes it incredibly easy to drag and drop assets and templates, which can speed up production, but relying too heavily on these shortcuts risk creating games that feel derivative. When multiple studios use the same lighting systems, shaders, and gameplay templates, their titles can start to look and feel eerily similar. Some critics argue that this convenience comes at the expense of originality, especially for smaller teams that may not have the resources to customize beyond the defaults. There are licensing risks too. When you bet on UE5, you're tied to Epic's ecosystem. Future changes in pricing, royalties, or engine capabilities could impact your game's profitability. And finally, there's the homogenization issue. Photorealism and technical fidelity often overshadow innovation in gameplay and design. And as powerful as UE5 may be, it comes with trade-offs that every developer must navigate carefully. Ask any gamer and they will tell you Unreal Engine 5 has a look. The hyper-realistic gleam or polished floors, shiny armor, or wet surfaces, it isn't just flashy, it's the product of lumen lighting and nanite geometry working their magic. And UE5 has refined this approach more towards photorealism, but here's the catch. When dozens of studios rely on the same system, their games start to feel similar. This has artistic consequences too. Photorealism, for all its wow factor, can push developers towards realism even when stylized or experimental visuals might better serve the game's tone. Indie teams chasing that next-gen look may sacrifice distinct identity just to compete, creating a subtle pressure toward conformity. UE5's shine can be dazzling, yes, but it can also flatten the visual landscape if developers aren't thoughtful about how they use it. So is any of this actually good for gaming? And here we are at the heart of the matter, right? UE5's ubiquity is a double-edged sword, absolutely. On the one hand, accessibility has never been higher, solo developers can craft environments that rival AAA studios, and indie teams can bring ambitious visions to life without massive budgets. That's genuinely incredible. But on the other hand, when every game looks the same, they all blend together in players' minds. The positives are obvious. UE5 accelerates production, improves quality, democratizes game development. The negatives are more subtle but equally important. Homogenized aesthetics, standardization pressure, and a narrowing of visual identity. Now here's the uncomfortable question we need to ask. Is standardization healthy in a creative field? It can raise the baseline quality, sure, but it can also stifle experimentation. The challenge moving forward is harnessing UE5's power while fostering uniqueness, a balancing act between empowerment and uniformity. Looking ahead to the next 5 to 10 years, UE5 will likely remain dominant in the AAA development space, but competitors are emerging. Unity is reinventing itself with AI-assisted tools and updated pipelines. Open source engines like Godot are gaining serious traction among indie developers seeking more flexibility and control. Meanwhile, AI and procedural generation promise to reshape entire workflows. Imagine developers generating environments, characters, or even gameplay systems with minimal manual labor. I mean, it's already starting to happen. So the industry may split into two distinct paths. Hyper-realistic AAA titles leveraging UE5 for cinematic spectacle, and then stylized indie games that prioritize creative vision over technical fidelity. Both will coexist, appealing to different audiences and, hopefully, countering some of the homogenization that UE5's dominance has introduced. We can also expect continued consolidation, with fewer engines dominating the market and smaller platforms serving niche roles. Cloud-based engines and subscription models could further lower entry barriers, letting anyone with an internet connection access AAA-level tools. The line between games, film, and interactive media will keep blurring until we're not entirely sure what we're looking at anymore. So what's the final verdict? Is Unreal Engine 5 good or bad? The honest answer is both. It's democratized game development in ways that we couldn't have imagined decades ago by giving creators tools that were once reserved for AAA studios with big budgets. But it's also created a visual monoculture where too many games look and feel the same. And that's concerning. Ultimately, Unreal Engine 5 might be like the best thing to ever happen to game development, or perhaps it's the moment it truly stopped feeling unreal. The future depends on whether or not developers will use Unreal Engine 5 as a foundation for innovation or a template for conformity. Time will tell which path they choose. Anyway, guys, that's all for today. Just wanted to chat a little bit about Unreal. Hopefully you learned something. Tell me in the comments, what's your favorite Unreal Engine 5 game? Do you like Unreal Engine 5? Do you like the look? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.